Welcome, dear students. In this session, I'm going to talk about the Great Wall Shift. Well, I assume that you have some basic knowledge of this Great Wall Shift. However, here I would explore it with you as I would explain the examples for you from different perspectives on different walls. The objective of the session is that you would understand by the end of this session what does this Great Wall Shift mean and what role it has played in the development of English language. Well, my dear students, the situation is very different when we consider the long vowel sounds in English. One of the significant changes that took place, are with reference to the, lengthening or, shortening of these sounds. For example, in Chaucer's times, pronunciations had still, certain continental, value attached to them. For example, to this it was pronounced like the father. It was raised, father, and not as name, a. It was pronounced here, not here, a. Father, other, not name, a. Not a. Also in Chaucer's time, pronunciation of, a was like, e in there, a. It was not very low, e, like we have in meat. So, a, not e. This was the practice of use of these sounds. Same was the case with other vowel sounds that were being used during Chaucer's times. But in 15th century, there was a great change that took place. We notice all the long vowels, they gradually came to be pronounced with a greater elevation, as you noticed on the previous slide here, being elevated, to, their sounds going higher instead of, father giving it make, a sound. So that those that could be, raised at this time point, they were raised, and those that could not be raised, they were becoming now consonantal sounds. For example, in E and U, they became diphthongs with the passage of time. I would point this whole out as a diagram or as a chart where you can visualize what was happening. This A, E, you can notice, this that shows, it taking its form and shape, E, and then becoming a diphthong, I. Here, A, O, O, ow. So, this is how these sounds were gradually moving or shifting from one place of articulation to the other. My dear students, this diagram that I've shown to you, or the way I have shown, their development, this is just a rough indication of what was happening. Exactly, this is not the case. Why? Because in the history of English language, when we look at how these sounds developed, there was a long period that they covered. It does not happen so that one morning you would wake up and you would see that a sound has changed. It happens gradually over the time. People start doing it. Everybody doesn't do it. Then, from minority it starts. Then majority starts doing it. Then there comes a time when it is standardized where everybody starts using that. Especially in the breaking of E and U, I would say, into the diphthongs I or ow, this does not happen in one day. Nor must these changes indicate, the arrows be thought of as, in this diagram as they showed. I used these kind of arrows in that. They do not show exactly the place where, they were pronounced, because there might be certain places coming in between two sounds, gradually shifting from one particular kind of sound to another kind of sound. Here, for a quick reference, you have this table, which shows a variety of Chaucerian and Shakespearean sounds. You can notice all of these sounds, how, they were changing over the times. You can probably sit back, relax, and look at this particular chart for a while and try to pronounce these according to Chaucer's pronunciation and Shakespeare's pronunciation, because the keys are given here. So by pronouncing them, you would have an idea of what do I mean by them. So, in fact, most of the long vowels had acquired, at least by the 16th century, and probably sometimes earlier than that, approximately the present form and shape that we have today. The most important development since is the furthering of, the further raising of this sound. I would give the example from, Shakespeare, whereas, this word clean that we pronounce as clean today used to be pronounced as clean. As we pronounce a sound in lane, clean would be pronounced as that. But now if we pronounce it, it is more like lean. It rhymes with lean, E sound. Whereas in Shakespeare's time, it was a sound more, whereas the shift has gradually taken place. The change occurred at the end of the 17th century and had become general by the middle of the 18th century. There were many other such changes, however, they were of slight nature and we cannot go into the details of those. However, if somebody is interested in the study of sounds, there are books that are specially devoted to the sound systems and the changes that took place over the time of history, so those books can be consulted. The spelling of English had become fixed in a general way before the shift and therefore did not change when the quality of these long vowels changed. So, because towards the end of the Middle English, the process of standardization, both of speech and writing, had taken place, this lengthening of vowels was not of much effect on the processes of standardization, and this is how English continued to develop through the times.